Many companies are now paying attention to the software they give on their phones. Taking a step in this direction, Lenovo introduced the K8 Note as the first phone to come with stock Android interface. All its phones will come with pure Android interface that previously had the Vive UI. In our unboxing video, we had many questions about the K8 Note. For example, does the deca-core processor on the phone heat up? How the phone stack up against the likes of Redmi Note 4 or the Moto G5? Or how does its dual camera fare against the likes of Honor 6X? You're watching India Today Tech, and in this video, we're going to tell you the pros and cons of the Lenovo K8 Note and how does it compare with all these phones. As I said, the software on Lenovo K8 Note is different this time, but its design is very similar to what we have seen on previous Lenovo phones. There is a fingerprint sensor at the back. The phone is quite chunky and not small enough to be used easily with one hand. Like the Redmi Note 4, it has a 5.5-inch display at front, but Redmi Note 4's design has some advantages to it. For example, the keys at the bottom are backlit. It has a 2.5D curved glass at front, and the dual camera at the back does make the phone look different, but there is nothing new about the design overall. It's quite generic and it's quite a usual design that we have seen on other phones. But having said that, the Venom Black color variant we received for review does look quite classy. It has matte finish at the back and the front also looks quite classy. There are some plus points to design this time, like there is a separate slot for Microsd and separate slot for 2 SIM card slots. Then there is a dedicated music key, though we have seen that there is no single press on the button. You need to long press the music key to either use it to control music or use it for any other function. Talking about the display, the Lenovo comes with a 5.5-inch IPS panel that has full HD resolution. It's nothing great, it's not as bright as the AMOLED panels we have seen on Samsung phones, and the Theater Max feature honestly looks like a gimmick. But then the full HD resolution on 30,000 rupee phone gives it a good value for money, and the colors are quite good when you're viewing it indoors. We have shown on the unboxing video as well that the viewing angles on the phone are quite nice and the brightness outdoors is ample for normal day viewing. Now before we talk about the software experience on the phone, let me tell you the call quality on Lenovo K8 Note is also quite decent. Talking about the software first, there are very less third-party applications. The software is quite smooth. The transitions and the animations of opening and closing of app is also very smooth, and you see that the lag that you experienced on the previous UI is now gone. In terms of multitasking also, the K8 Note is an improvement over the K6 Note. You see the applications switch very fast, and the multi-window feature is also very easy to use and works quite well. But its deca-core processor though is quite powerful when you do gaming on the device or in general use, but it does heat up the phone as well. We saw that during normal use outdoors, the phone does heat up when you're using camera extensively, or for example when you're doing gaming on the phone. But we saw that there are bugs on the phone that Lenovo should or may fix with software updates. For example, while using WhatsApp, the screen goes blank sometimes, and if you're browsing on Chrome for example, the phone would freeze at times when you're switching from one tab to another if you have opened more than 10 tabs. There are 2 apps in particular, the Lenovo Protect and the Lenovo Help, that may solve the purpose that Lenovo wants it to solve, but it does bug the user very irritatingly. Both the apps give out notifications on a regular basis, like one every day, and the most irritating part of it is that they cannot be dismissed. Compared to the Redmi Note 4 for example, which has a Snapdragon 625 chipset, the Lenovo K8 Note does a very good job. It performs well enough in day-to-day tasks like web browsing or using social media apps. It also gives you good benchmark numbers as well. But there are occasional lags and stutter that peeps in every now and then. When pushed, the smartphone performs admirably enough, though some lag is evident. Gaming performance on the K8 Note is also good. We tried out the Asphalt 8 and the Modern Combat 5, which runs without any frame rate drops. Another aspect related to performance is about the battery. Lenovo K8 Note comes with a 4000 mAh battery, and it should ideally get the phone going for about a day and a half. But in our user experience, we saw that the battery backup was quite inconsistent. Sometimes the phone would stretch to even 2 days, but sometimes it won't even last for a single day. The last piece of the puzzle are the dual cameras on the K8 Note. Many people have asked if the dual cameras on the K8 Note are good enough. Now, the dual cameras on K8 Note have one a 13 megapixel sensor and another a 5 megapixel sensor. It's not a telephoto setup, neither it is a combination of monochrome and color sensor that we have seen on the Honor 6X. This setup on K8 Note is simply for softening the backgrounds or getting a better bokeh in your shots. So there is a separate mode in which you need to switch to enable the second camera. There is a depth enabled mode that fires both the cameras together. We saw that it's not only slow and the autofocus is very choppy in this mode, but that the photos taken in this mode are also quite gimmicky. You'll see the outlines of the objects are totally blurred. It's not a very advanced fashionable bokeh, but it's a rather gimmicky photoshopped photo that you would see that the camera captures. At lower setting, the bokeh effects look decent, but it's not anything spectacular. Honestly, the dual camera setup on the phone looks like a gimmick, but then the primary camera on the phone, that is a 30 megapixel sensor, is quite good. It's comparable to phones like the Moto G5 or the Redmi Note 4. The shots taken are quite crisp, colors captured are quite good, and the low light performance of the camera is also quite nice. The autofocus works just fine and the shutter speed is also not that bad. So if you're considering to buy the K8 Note, assume that it comes only with a single camera. On the front, there is a 13 megapixel sensor with an aperture of f2.2. The front sensor also has a single LED flash, which Lenovo calls party flash, which produces decent shots in well-lit scenarios and the natural colors and good details. So should you buy the Lenovo K8 Note? If you're considering to buy the 13999 variant, the Moto G5 Plus and the Nokia 6 are much better options to go for, that have much better cameras and slightly better performance. You can consider the 12999 variant if you're buying it over the Moto G5 that gives you better screen. The K8 Note is quite an advanced offering from Lenovo that does a better job at software performance, and the build quality of the phone, like its previous generation smartphones, is also quite sturdy and good.